over the past few days we've had rotten weather. Snow, ice, mist, fog, rain and muddy ground. Having gone up to the moors for the first time in 2 years, where the conditions were much colder, it gives you the opportunity to have a skills shakedown. It's much more difficult doing bushcraft prepper survival training in a cold, wet day, wearing extra layers and gloves, than it is on a bright, warm, sunny day. Lacking manual dexterity and mental capacity in cold, freezing conditions is a major problem, and this is one of the things that you've got to prepare for. You have to train now for when the chips are down. Precautions need to be taken before you go out into a prepper survival bushcraft situation. Trying to thread a needle with frozen fingers or deteriorating eyesight is an almost impossible task. So, before you go out, thread the needle, tie off the end, wrap the surplus thread back, and then put the needle into the threads of the bobbin. The centre of the bobbin can be blocked at either end and used for storing things like pins, small safety pins and other needles. When you use an old bit of plastic to plug the hole, leave an ear on it so you can pull it out when required. If you don't wish to stuff the end of the bobbin with plastic, try using one of the squashable ear plugs. Squash it, put it into the hole, let it expand. It looks a little bit better than the plastic. You can buy dedicated needle threaders, but like everything else, how much do you want to carry? Do you really need the kitchen sink, or can you adapt and improvise? It is standard practice to carry a flask in cold weather if you're out in the car. But how big does your flask need to be, and what do you put in it? You need to decide how much water you're going to need for how many people. I would suggest that you carry hot water rather than coffee, tea or soup. If you have hot water, you have the opportunity to make the drink you want and is most appropriate at that time. It would behove you to find out exactly how much liquid your flask actually carries in real terms. In other words, how many cups does it actually fill when you're out and about? Once a flask is half empty, its contents cool down much faster than when it's full, so it might be a good idea on a long trip to carry 2 smaller flasks rather than one big one. If you're out and about exploring, don't forget to use things like electronic maps and position finding programs like What 3 Words. It's not cheating, it's helping. But have a map and a compass with you as well. Technology and batteries fail. If you're going to set up an encampment in the winter, don't do it in a valley. It's in the shade so it's cool. It's downhill so all the cold air collects. And it's in the shade so the sun doesn't melt the snow as quickly as it does elsewhere. Think about where you're going to camp. A valley is not often a good idea. Ice forms on the surface of water, So to keep the spouts from freezing and the water available, store your water containers upside down overnight in cold conditions. Because water expands when it turns into ice, leave a substantial air gap in all your water containers if you're storing them overnight. This will prevent them being split. Gas lighters are great, but you need to keep them warm, especially in cold weather, so keep them in an inside pocket. And keep some matches, preferably in a waterproof container, for when it's too cold for the lighter to actually work. If you've downloaded and printed a map from the internet, make sure you realise what the scale is. Check it out before you use it, or you might become a cropper. Hopefully, these hints and hacks will prove to be useful, and you'll comment and subscribe. So get out there, get training. You know it makes sense. It will serve you well.